Welcome to the Property Elite podcast. I'll be your host, Jen Lehman, chartered surveyor and co-founder of Property Elite. Stay tuned each week for more on industry hot topics, market updates and new RICS guidance.
How do I plan for all the revision that I have to do for my APC interview? And, it's a big, big topic, isn't it? So, what I wanted to go through was some tips on how they can tackle that.
Yeah, great. Absolutely. The first thing I would say they would need to do is understanding obviously the RICS requirements regarding the actual assessment. So do a lot of practice on that and make yourself really aware of those requirements, whether it's your pathway guide, the list of your mandatory and technical competencies, and also identifying any knowledge gaps or evidence gaps within your submission that you've created so that you're prepared to fill those in.
Okay, and you mentioned the pathway guide, so that covers all the competencies, doesn't it, that the candidate will have chosen, and it also gives examples, doesn't it, of what you need to do to cover the competencies.
Yes, definitely. So it would be to the different levels: level 1, level 2, and level 3. So you should be able to identify and remember in your submission what level you've actually acknowledged that you will reach that competency. So for example, is it knowledge based? Is it do you have examples of for example, in the commercial pathway, you could have accounting, for example. Actually, let's cut that bit out. I'm so sorry. I'll just say it again.
That'll get edited. Okay, so moving on to tip 2 then, creating a realistic study schedule. So there's a lot to cover, and how do candidates approach this effectively?
Yeah, sure. So break your revision into weekly goals, I would say. I would say so you can have a set, clear guide on how you wish to revise. So the weekly goals, focusing on 2 or 3 competencies, I would definitely recommend. And I would also say to use a calendar planner. You've got Motion, you've got Monday, you've got all these different tools that can help you put together a detailed plan together to accomplish that. And I would also say to remember to review your revision planner as well. So anything that needs to be taken over, definitely do that. And also prioritize level 3 competencies and those that are like those competencies that you're less confident in. Because level 3, as you know, is knowledge. It's also, it's not only covering knowledge, it's covering your seasoned advice and the reason why you've given that advice to your client. So you need to make sure that you are hitting all those points in order to reach that level 3.
So you need the knowledge, you need to have the practical experience of that knowledge, and then also be able to explain why and how you did what you did.
Absolutely.
Yeah, great. So moving on to the next tip then, focus on key legislation and professional standards. So what's the point of this?
Yes, so I would say on this one, it's things depending on your competencies, it's things like your contracts, it's things like your building regulations, it's key legislation, measurement for commercial pathway. It's key legislation that covers your specific pathway. You should be knowledgeable about this. These questions come up all the time, and you should be able to explain them, at least what they mean, if not fully remember exactly which legislation you are speaking of as well.
So we talk about legislation which is acts of Parliament. So sort of examples of that would be, say, the Companies Act or key legislation that applies to people in business, but also professional standards. So what do we mean by professional standards?
So we're speaking of the RICS guidelines, guidance on how to carry out your duties in the different pathways, including, again, for commercial pathway, it details the measurement guidance of how it should be how a property should be measured, and it's different for different pathways. And also, it's just the RICS standards.
Yeah, so we've got professional standards from the RICS, which are mandatory, and those are standards that all professionals should follow. So, as you say, they're going to be different depending on the pathway that you're following. But things like, as you say, measurement, that's property measurement, second edition. You need to understand which standards apply to you and know what they are. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I definitely agree, and also name them, as you said. For example, the second edition, that's all things that's going to be noted in the interview.
Yeah, great. And then we've got RICS guidance as well, which you referred to. So RICS guidance, not mandatory, but obviously best practice. And again, being familiar with what guidance says, knowing which guidance applies to your particular pathway is all important, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, so moving on to tip 4, mix up your study tools. So what are you suggesting here, Tatenda?
Yes, so I would definitely say, for example, the RICS guidance we've just spoken about, the notes, have those notes written down. What is the best practice? And as you mentioned, case studies and real life project examples are definitely a must. You need to prove that you are a safe pair of hands and that you've carried out these duties before, and give clear examples. Flashcards for key terms and legislation, as mentioned again, those are really key. So just having little cards that you can walk around with and remember the different legislation for the specific pathway you are following. And also, I would definitely say listening to podcasts and listening to podcasts and webinars. Property Elite has quite a few of those, and got some really, really good tools as well, including the prep questions that can be drawn out for you, just to get you. It gives you a comprehensive amount of questions. It doesn't obviously exhaust the questions, but it is a lot of questions that you can start to get yourself familiar with, and also just staying updated with the industry news, depending on which pathway you're in. That is also very, very key, because current issues will definitely come up.
Yeah, that's an interesting point, actually, because I'm not so sure how you keep abreast of the industry news these days. I mean, back in the day, we used to have magazines that actually came around the office. So so things have changed quite a lot now, Tatenda. How do you keep in touch with what's going on in your part of the business?
Yeah, absolutely. So there's definitely quite a lot of articles, for example, online in the news. There's also, for example, in the retail industry and the commercial industry, Savills always publishes some market trends and market things to look to the future. So definitely using those tools, and the internet is your friend, to be honest. There's so much guidance and market trends, looking at different schemes that are opening up. So watching out for shopping centres, new areas, new developments, regeneration projects, and also
what's going on in the wider economy as well. So what's coming up in the budget? What does that look like for interest rates? How's that going to impact the market? So having a general kind of all-round knowledge of the macroeconomic situation which will influence your particular area of practice.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, so moving on to the next tip then, have lots of mocks. Sometimes that's easier said than done, isn't it? So, how do you suggest you get round to scheduling some mocks?
Absolutely. I would definitely say use your network to begin with, in your workplace. However, a lot of the times people are obviously busy, and maybe you also want a different perspective. And Property Elite obviously has a wide range of consultants that you can tap into. So if you contact us, obviously, and you'll be assigned one, I would definitely say mocks are definitely crucial, because they will all, depending on the different people you're having mocks with, you will definitely identify if you are having any knowledge gaps, and also how to tackle those knowledge gaps. And also it will get you comfortable to sit in front of people you don't know, and prepare you for the actual real life interview. So I definitely would say a lot of mocks are definitely crucial.
Yeah, it's really important to practice, and a lot of people are a bit scared about getting on with having mocks, aren't they? Because I think they're a bit anticipate that they might not have their knowledge perfect before they start doing some. Actually, that's to be expected, because you're never going to know everything, and you need to just get on with it and deal with the questions that you can't answer, as well as the questions that you can answer.
Yeah.
So our next tip then is to review and reflect. So how do you suggest that candidates tackle this?
I'd definitely say at the end of each week, as we discussed, you have your weekly revision targets. I would say reflect on each week, how it's gone. What have you learned? Are there any weaker areas that you could be covering that need more attention? These mocks definitely will help, as we spoke about in the fifth topic.
Yeah.
And then also update your logbook and CPD records. I would also say to stay flexible and adapt your plan if something isn't working, because adaptation, flexibility is definitely needed, because you just never know what might come up or what might change within that period of time you're revising. And so you just need to stay on top of that for sure. And don't be too scared about, obviously, as you just mentioned, being perfect and knowing absolutely everything. Try and cover those gaps as much as you can, and also prepare yourself to a nice answer, a good answer, a responsible answer of, if you can't answer those questions in the interview, how are you going to respond to that as well?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And as you say, flexibility is definitely the key, isn't it? Because each mock you have is going to highlight different areas for you. So you probably want to brush up on those areas after each mock. So yeah, it's a big mountain to climb, but doing it in bite-sized chunks really helps. And thank you very much, Tatenda, for going through all that with us today.
Thanks for listening to the Property Elite podcast this week. Head to our website to check out our full blog, free and paid support resources and services, free consultation for every single RICS APC and ASOC RICS candidate, and also ask us any questions you have via the website chat blog. See you next week.